There's an acronym that we use. Respiratory, opposite, metabolic, equal. Okay? All right. What this means is that if it is respiratorily induced, and we are looking at number 1, pH, number 2, PCO2, and number 3, bicarb, and we always look at them in this order. Do not mix them up, because then you will be confused, okay? All right, so if we look at it in this order, and we have, according to what we had over here a minute ago, a pH of 7.30, I have an arrow that's going down, right? Acidosis. That's half the battle. I know that it's acidosis. Whatever it is, they're acidotic. Then I'm going to look at my PCO2. That PCO2 was 55. It's up. Then I look at my bicarb, HCO3, and it was 25, and that was normal. All right? If I look at this, and then I look at my acronym, respiratory opposite, metabolic equal, we're talking about the way that those arrows are going. If I have a pH that's down and a PCO2 that's up, this is respiratory in nature, okay? The respiratory is compensating, blowing off CO2 to bring these hydrogen ions back to where they need to be, between 7.35 and 7.45. Life is very skinny in here, okay? You can't go too far one way or the other. The body is going to compensate, but it usually won't until you fall outside those parameters. So what we are looking at are two opposite arrows. This is respiratory acidosis, okay? Let's do another one. Let's take another example. Catch up to myself here. Okay, I have a pH of 7.49. This is high or low? Daphne?
Hi.
High. Okay. So then I have a PCO2 of 40. High or low? High, low, or normal? Norm was 35 to 45. So this is normal, correct? Okay. And then bicarb, let's say we have a bicarbonate of 29. Well, our bicarb level was 22, to 30, oh my gosh. Hang on, guys. Anyway, this is also high, okay? It's 22 to 26, sorry, 28, 26. And this 7.35 to 7.45. Lots of math to remember here, okay? So if I look at my acronym, my arrows should be opposite, but they're not if it's going to be respiratory. First of all, I know this is alkalosis, so that's half the battle, right? I know half of it. Metabolic equal. Both of those arrows are going up. Metabolic. Okay? All right. Now, I do want to introduce at this point compensation. Okay? You're going, oh God, she's going to throw another, wrench into my spokes here, and this whole cart's going to go off balance. Compensation is what happens. Compensation has to happen in order for this to come back to a normal value. Something has to give. Either we have to hyperventilate carbon dioxide off, which is an acid, to bring the pH back, or the kidneys have to kick in and excrete or hold hydrogen ions to either bring the acid base back to balance. Okay? All right. When we compensate, what you will see is the normal number that we've been dealing with so far will begin to change. Okay? But rest assured, it will never change in the direction that it confuses you. Okay? All right. By that, I mean that if we know this is metabolic alkalosis because both of those arrows, metabolic equal, are going up. All right? Now the lungs are going to kick in and they're going to try, the respiratory system is going to really try to compensate for this. When it does, this arrow is going to go up. This will become a higher number. All right? Respiratory opposite? No, these are still going in the same direction. You look at your pH first. Which way is the arrow going? This isn't respiratory. This is metabolic. Both of those are equal. Metabolic equal. All right? Now, when this changes, this will also change. This will begin to come back to the norm in here. And it may be to there. It's still metabolic alkalosis, but now we have partially compensated. The lungs are beginning to compensate for this metabolic alkalosis. What they're doing is holding hydrogen. We're alkalotic. We got to have acid here. CO2 is an acid. It begins to rise to bring this back to normal. Okay? And I know you're thinking, oh God, this is exactly the opposite of what I think it should be. But if you really think about this and this as acidotic, hydrogen ions and CO2, you'll have it, okay? You'll get your mind wrapped around it. The best way to do it is to use the ROAM acronym. If it's respiratory, the pH and the CO2 are going to be opposite. If it is metabolic, the pH and the HCO3 are going to be equal. Those arrows will go in the same direction. Okay? If the other is not within norms, okay, let's say that this is 46, it's up. And it wasn't at 45, it was still normal, I'm sorry. At 46, it's up. It's beginning to compensate. We should begin to start seeing the pH change and come back to normal, okay? Now, if this went up even further, let's say to 48, and this came down to 7.45, this is now normal, bordering on the up level, correct? It's bordering on alkalosis, so we know at some point they were alkalotic because this crap is all off too. Sorry. Okay, all right. So, at this point, it falls now between the norms. It is no longer partially compensated, it is fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. Okay? All right, let's try another one. And by fully compensated, we are compensating to maintain life. 7.35 to 7.45, because anything out of that range is not conducive to cellular life, okay? Not for very long. All right, let's try another one. Okay, I got a pH of 7.54. All right, and of course, folks, that's very high. I have so we know that this is what? Alkalosis. All right, so we're dealing with alkalosis again. I just don't know if it's respiratory or metabolic, but we're going to find out, right? Respiratory opposite, metabolic equal. Our PCO2 is 25. Uh-oh. This is low. It's low. What are we looking at, folks? Respiratory opposite. So we have a case of respiratory alkalosis, but do we need this key piece here? Yes, we do. I need to know if this is even being compensated for at all. If it is, okay, I know what it is. It's whether or not now it's being compensated for. If it is, this bicarb is going to fall somewhere out of normal range, okay? But for all intents purposes, we're at 24, which is normal. So we have uncompensated respiratory alkalosis. All right, let's try another one. Okay, my pH is a little better, 7.48, still high. So we know we're dealing with alkalosis, right? I've got a PCO2 of 25. That's low. What am I looking at? Well, respiratory opposite, yep, that's got to be respiratory. Okay, I got another case of respiratory alkalosis here. My bicarb is now 20. It's low. If this was to be metabolic equal, these would be in the same direction, but they can't be. They just can't be. We have an alkalotic situation. What's going to happen to these hydrogen ions here? The lungs can't compensate for it. It's respiratory. It's a respiratory issue. So a couple days later, our kidneys are starting to compensate for this. I have a alkalotic situation here that needs to become more acidic. These need, the body needs to hang on to the hydrogen ions, okay? And that's exactly what it is doing, all right? See how they are low, 22, 26 normal, okay? We're not getting rid of them like we should. We're hanging on to them. Why? To bring this alkalosis, add some hydrogen ion acid back to it and bring that pH back towards that normal range, okay? Back the other way, okay? All right. So we would call this, is it fully compensated? No, it does not fall between the 7.35, 7.45 yet. Not yet. So it's partially compensated, all right? Because the other system is kicking in to help the respiratory system cope and conquer whatever is wrong with it. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, I have a pH of 7.44. Well, that's normal, right? Yeah, that's normal. That's normal, but you and I know that I'm not going to let you off the hook that easy, okay? So which way is this tending? It's trending up. It's trending up. So over here in parentheses, I'm going to put a little thing there. And I'm thinking this is alkalosis of some sort, but let's go forward. I've got a PCO2 of 25. This is low. This is low. According to this, I'm looking at what used to be alkalosis, okay, and is respiratory induced. Can't write. Respiratory opposite. Those arrows are in the opposite direction. Now, with this being in a normal range, I'm expecting my bicarb to be off. It's going to be off, okay? My bicarb is 18. It's low. Now, according to the Rome acronym, metabolic equal, no, these are not equal. This is indeed respiratorily induced alkalosis. However, is this partially or fully compensated? It's fully compensated because it falls within that normal value, okay? So it's fully compensated. Our patient's doing much better, and we might be able to get them off of life support at this point, okay? All right. Play with these numbers. Honestly, the acronym, you have to know, respiratory opposite, metabolic equal, and you always look at the compensatories as they happen in time. Your pH will tell you what it is. Okay? Your PCO2 is going to tell you where. Okay? And your bicarb will also tell you where, whether it's metabolic or whether it's respiratory, but it will also give you a glimpse of the time factor, the time element. All right? How long has this been going on? Now, when you take patients that are type 1 diabetics and extremely prone to diabetic ketoacidosis, we are looking at a metabolic type of acidosis. It isn't something that just, hey, their blood sugar spiked today and va-boom, we're already doing the fruity ketones and the spilling of ketones and, you know, the wasting of protein, you know, breakdown, and all the other issues that go with DKA. The respiratory issues. Okay, we're well past that. When we're looking at real DKA, blood sugars of 400 plus that have been there, they have been there for days like that. This isn't something that just happens overnight, okay? True type 1 and type 2 diabetics that are insulin dependent and are going in and out of DKA are probably barely maintaining blood sugars on a healthy level, if at all. They have been high, and they are high for a very long period of time. Therefore, the kidneys are going to be involved, okay? And that is where you're seeing it. The respiratory, that just goes along with it. Both of them act. They act together. One just acts first. The other will act at a later date, okay? All right. Respiratory opposite, metabolic equal. You look at pH, PCO2, bicarb, to recap. When it is fully compensated and falls within the norm, you need to look at which end of the spectrum it's going, okay? So if it's normal and it is 7.44 or 7.42, it's still tending towards alkalosis, all right? And that arrow should be, you should be thinking towards alkalosis. Then you're gonna look at your PCO2, then your bicarb. Look at your arrows. Respiratory will be opposite, pH and CO2. Metabolic will be equal, pH and bicarb. Okay? All right. Good luck.